The sun was shining brightly on a crisp morning as Mr. Elijah Johnson, a 78-year-old man with a weathered face and a heart full of dreams, walked into the luxurious Lamborghini dealership. His old worn-out coat and scuffed shoes contrasted sharply with the gleaming supercars surrounding him. He had saved every penny of his hard-earned money for decades, and today was the day he would finally buy his dream car, a Lamborghini. The sales team, a group of young, sharply dressed employees, glanced at him as he entered. One of them, a cocky salesman named Jake, smirked and whispered to his colleague, "Look at this old guy. Does he think this is a thrift store?" The others chuckled, assuming Mr. Johnson was just another curious onlooker who couldn't afford even the tires on one of these cars. Mr. Johnson approached the counter, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Good morning, young man," he said politely. "I'd like to take a look at the Lamborghini Aventador, please." Jake raised an eyebrow and scoffed. "Sir, do you know how much that car costs? It's over $400,000. Maybe you'd be more comfortable looking at, I don't know, a used sedan?" The other employees stifled laughter, clearly amused by the situation. Mr. Johnson's smile faded, but he remained calm. "Son, I've worked hard my entire life. I know what I'm here for. Now, can you show me the car or not?" Jake rolled his eyes and reluctantly led him to the Aventador, making snide comments under his breath the entire time. Mr. Johnson ignored the disrespect, running his hand over the sleek carbon fiber body of the car. He could almost feel the roar of the engine, the wind in his hair. This was his dream, and no one was going to take that away from him. After a brief and dismissive tour, Jake handed Mr. Johnson a brochure. "Here, take this. Maybe you can hang it on your wall and pretend," he said with a smirk. The other employees laughed openly now, their mockery echoing through the showroom. Mr. Johnson's eyes narrowed, but he simply nodded, took the brochure, and walked out without a word. The employees watched him leave, still laughing, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit them. The next morning, the dealership was bustling with activity. The employees were polishing cars and preparing for the day when a sleek black limousine pulled up to the entrance. Out stepped Mr. Johnson, but this time he was dressed in a sharp, tailored suit. Behind him were two lawyers carrying briefcases. Jake's jaw dropped as Mr. Johnson walked in, this time with an air of authority. "Good morning, gentlemen," Mr. Johnson said, his voice steady and commanding. "I believe we have some unfinished business." The manager, sensing something was off, hurried over. "Can I help you, sir?" Mr. Johnson smiled. "Yes, you can." "I'd like to buy this entire dealership, every car, every piece of equipment, and this building. Name your price." The room fell silent. The employees exchanged nervous glances, their earlier arrogance replaced by shock and fear. The manager stammered, "Sir, this is a multi-million-dollar establishment." "Are you serious?" Mr. Johnson's lawyer stepped forward, opening their briefcases to reveal stacks of documents and a certified check. "We're very serious," one of them said. Within hours, the deal was done. Mr. Johnson was now the proud owner of the Lamborghini dealership. He called a meeting with all the employees, who stood nervously in a line, avoiding eye contact. "Yesterday, you laughed at me," Mr. Johnson began, his voice calm but firm. "You judged me by my appearance and assumed I wasn't worthy of your time or respect. But let me tell you something. Never underestimate someone based on how they look. I've worked hard my entire life, and today, I'm not just buying a car. I'm buying this dealership to teach you a lesson in humility." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Some of you will keep your jobs, but only if you learn to treat every customer with respect, no matter who they are. As for you, Jake," he said, turning to the smirking salesman, "you're fired. Pack your things and leave." Jake's face turned pale as he stumbled over his words, but Mr. Johnson simply turned and walked away, leaving the employees in stunned silence. Months later, the dealership had transformed. Under Mr. Johnson's ownership, it became known not just for its luxury cars, but for its commitment to treating every customer with dignity and respect. Mr. Johnson often visited, driving his beloved Aventador and sharing his story with anyone who would listen. As for Jake, he learned a hard lesson about humility and respect. He eventually found another job, but he never forgot the day he underestimated an old man with a dream. The video ends with Mr. Johnson driving his Lamborghini down an open highway, the engine roaring as the sun sets behind him. A voiceover says, "Never judge a book by its cover. Dreams have no age limit, and respect costs nothing."